Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who like their murder, haute couture. Haute couture? Haute couture. I don't know how to pronounce this. Right now we are reading every short story in Ann and Jeff VanderMeer's anthology, The Weird, including this one, Gustav Meyrink's The Man in the Bottle. I'm Zach, and this week I am really interested in kind of the absurd, satirical tone that we have going on here and trying to think through how exactly this fits in with the rest of the anthology.
I'm Bob. And Zach, isn't this one of your biggest fears? Living dolls?
Those puppets were scary. And yeah, you have outed me as someone who has historically throughout his life been terrified of living dolls. One of my earliest memories is from, I guess you could say like the crib. Or maybe it was post-crib. I don't know. But I have this memory of a Raggedy Ann doll, which used to face my bed, get up and start walking and start reaching through the bars of the crib. Years later, I think I determined that maybe someone left that Twilight Zone episode with the doll on when I was a kid. Thanks for outing me on that, Bob. But it is true. It is true. This has haunted me for as long as I can remember.
Right, yeah, scary, man. I was hoping you were going to say she started choking me in my crib. I guess that's a little too violent, really, to hope for. I shouldn't say that, but what a interesting story. It reminds me a lot of Hop Frog. Have you ever read Hop Frog by Edgar Allan Poe?
No, I've missed that one, actually.
It's interesting in a similar way because there is so much that is very rich and there's so much opulence going on. So we have this play happening right in front of our eyes. Hop Frog, there's like a performance. Hop Frog tricks some people, gets them to be tarred and fed. Anyway, in this story, there is all of these players who are on stage. There are puppets because it is what do you call that? Not a mannequin. They are marionettes. So they are marionettes, and I can't tell often who is real and who is not real, and that's unsettling in itself. But then there are things like elephants that come out, and they're just dripping with jewels. We have all of this crazy stuff, like it's a prince putting on this show. So all of the wealth is there. But then there seems to be, and I can't tell if it's a sex thing or a revenge thing, but anyway, there's a murder. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, so I think it's I think it's a revenge thing. We get this really interesting line. Okay, so the people in this play, include the princess, the Prince Mohammed Darashko, and the Count de Fast. And at the very beginning of this short story, we get this little exchange, and it's a little long. I'm going to go on a little bit, but just play it out. So, "Oh, how interesting!" exclaimed a blue butterfly. "Couldn't Malekthon discover whether or not Count Faust is a slave of the princess?" "Don't speak so loud," interrupted the Dutch counselor. "It is a mighty good thing that the orchestra played the close of that waltz fortissimo, for the prince was standing here only a moment since." "Better not speak of such things," whispered an Egyptian, "for the jealousy of this Asiatic prince knows no bounds, and there are probably more explosives in the palace than we dream. Count de Faust has been playing with fire too long, and if Darashko suspects..." Cut off at that point. But it's a blink and you miss it moment. And I actually went back and read it a second time, and I was like, oh, that's where it is. But we are introduced to the idea that it's an open secret. Everyone knows that this Count de Faust is sleeping with the princess or, enamored with her in some way. And the Prince Mohammed Darashko is extremely, extremely jealous. He's a jealous man, and presumably with the princess. And, I missed that the first time around, and it was just a carnival of horror. It's just like, what the hell is going on? But knowing that bit of information made me be like, okay, so what are we doing here? We are this prince's sense of vindictiveness. He can't just kill a man. He can't just draw pistols with him at dawn. He has to establish an elaborate play, cast the person he doesn't like in a thing on stage, and then publicly kill him through suffocation in front of everyone at the party. What a baller.
It's like the Prestige all over again. Do you think that is the weird part about it, that he is so willing to go out of his way to make it elaborate, that is a weird thing in itself. Is there something else that's weird? Is it the puppets, or is it going to this length to get revenge?
I thought maybe it was, well, okay, first off, I'm not really sure how well this story fits in with the parameters of the weird that Ann and Jeff VanderMeer have laid out in their opening essay at the start of this collection. You know, so many of the ways that they characterize the weird have to do with like characters becoming obsessed with something which is beyond the limits of human reason, or some kind of object or entity which is beyond the mundane world. But then they also have these other ideas, like, for example, it blends the strangely beautiful with terror, they say, or it evokes an atmosphere of dread. And that is so general. So many stories that we wouldn't necessarily classify as weird could fit into those two rubrics. And I think that this might be one. The masks that people are wearing, the very ornate language that is used to describe this piece. It is very luxurious and beautiful and stylized, but then it's punctuated with terror and dread when we realize that we're watching a man suffocate in front of a large crowd who doesn't realize that it's not part of the act.
But it's all part of the show. The VanderMeers, in their introduction, they say this story is typical of Meyrink's weird stories, and they say grotesque, brief, and flecked with the decadent. And I think that goes to what you're saying. There is a lot of decadence in this. There is, again, the elephant. I'll read a little piece here. It says, there's plumes of peacocks everywhere from its head. There's all of this stuff. There's crimson everywhere. And then it says, heavily embroidered gold cloths streamed down from the back of the beast, skirting the floor. Across its enormous forehead, there was a network of sparkling jewels. I think that is really showing his obsession, Meyrink's obsession with the extreme decadence and something, beautiful. And then also that not just being a set piece. Well, I guess it is. It's a set piece that is inhabiting this horrifying scene, and it's right there, having beauty right up front, and then also having the horrifying right up front. It's not like they're just two pieces of a book that are separated by chapters. It's like you have to have that huge, glowing, sparkling piece to then have the terror leap out from all of the light that is cast through those pieces.
In a weird way, it reminded me of like Eyes Wide Shut, for example, like, aristocratic people being masked, being referred to only by, the characters in which they are embodying, and a sense of sinister dread that is underlying the whole thing. But as I read online and some reviews of this story, one thing that stuck out to me is how many people wanted to read this as an allegory of media today. So like you have an idea of all of these people are watching and they can't tell simulated violence from real violence. They can't tell where that barrier is until it's too late. And people were quick to draw comparisons between like reality TV or, social media, or I don't know. Do you feel like it, I don't want to say holds up, but is this how you read it? Like, is this something that speaks to you?
I hadn't thought of that, but I do think of that now when we have the orchestra they seem to be marionettes. Are they marionettes or not? Even the audience who is watching it doesn't know if they're real or not. We don't know if they're real or not. And we don't even know if the scene or the horror, I guess the spectacle itself, we don't know if it's real or not. Everything is cast in doubt until the final answer is until the final truth comes out of the murder. Everything else has been held in doubt the whole time. But I think it's a really interesting image to say this is about modern media or our consuming it. There's the great line that says, "The puppet orchestra of marionettes remained lifeless and waxen. The flute player stared with glassy, idiotic eyes at the ceiling." It is too much to know the truth when you can't even recognize if you're a marionette or not.
It reminds me of, I just popped on this, but Harlan Ellison in Dangerous Visions. Recently we read the whole anthology that he edited, Dangerous Visions. And in one of them, in the introduction, I believe, to his own piece, he talked about how people complain that his writing is too violent, or that maybe it glorifies violence for the sake of violence and shock value or something. But his response was, he's actually anti-violence. He's writing the most vile and violent things he can in order to kind of throw it in the audience's face. Like, oh, this is what you want. This is what you people want to read. Like he's taking the criticism and flipping it back around on other people. And actually those slow, long moments of the person inside of the bottle, slowly realizing he's run out of air and kind of running in circles around it and banging on the glass and stuff like that and kind of giving the I'm joking sign. Those long moments kind of reminded me of that, I guess, in the sense that Harlan Ellison's relationship to his readers, the violent media that he is creating, and our position as the reader is really analogous to the violent scene that's happening on the stage and the audience who is lapping it up. As an aesthetic, how does this story rank with you among the rest of the stories in this anthology so far? Like, do you like these more humanly grounded stories versus the ones which lean on the supernatural more?
It reminds me a lot of Cuban's story, The Other Side, where you said it was more all outside, it's all exteriority versus interiority. All of the other ones we've seemed to go into people's heads, and we've experienced that obsession. We especially saw that in The Willows by Blackwood, and we thought, okay, a big point is for this narrator to keep sane while he tells us this story. Here, there's not really a narrator that matters. It's just spectacle. We're just watching it. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a very fun spectacle. And I think one part that feels quite weird too, and also like The Other Side, is there are all of these, there's this mishmash of monsters in this that don't really need to be there, but they bring so much color and interest into the stage. There are, there's vampires, there's different kinds of monkeys, there are different, just all sort, there's like a fake Don Quixote that just comes in all of a sudden. There's all of these weird characters that are participating on the stage, and it makes it feel like a cabinet of curiosities just broke open and spilled out onto the stage. I found out an interesting thing about Meyrink too. He got really interested in spiritualism. He had this actually in Prague. He was in a very dark time. He's in his room and he was thinking about ending his life. And then someone just slipped something under his door and it just said afterlife. And so he opened it and decided, okay, I'm going to keep going. Afterlife. And he said that moment really got him interested in theosophy, which we also saw Blackwood was quite interested in. But I thought this was quite interesting. He opened a bank in Prague, and then later he was convicted. I think he was acquitted later too, but they caught him doing spiritualist banking. So I think he was either using spiritualism to convince people to give him his money, or he was haunting them. He did something illegal with his theosophical knowledge, his knowledge of spiritualism, and his bank. And then he was never allowed to do banking again. But I thought that was a little, it's very showmanship. It feels a lot like this story where it's all on stage and it's elaborate. We have this prince who's doing a very elaborate revenge story. And now we have Meyrink doing this very elaborate Ponzi scheme.
Voice from beyond the grave, tell me where to invest.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in seeing what Meyrink can do with like a full-length novel. I think that he's definitely a person who we should come back to in the near future, just see what else he's got. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later, Zach.